What do you do if you can only breastfeed for 3 months? If it was me and I could only breastfeed for 3 months, I would first aggressively look into why I'm not producing, and I would do something about that. And I can tell you that, more than half of the time when I do that with women who are breastfeeding, that I can get their production up again. If they can't, then I would find the living wet nurse that I knew, and I would try to get milk for my baby from the wet nurse. And then third choice would be breast milk bank if you live in a country that has breast milk. But I don't believe that there's any substitute. Like people say, what about goat and all this? No, because breast milk contains stem cells, it contains retroviral-like particles, it contains anti-cancer molecules and different types of RNA and DNA that are designed for human. If you give your baby raw milk or even pasteurized milk from another animal, you're giving them that animal's genetic programming. So I think human milk for human babies is best, and I try as hard as possible to get mothers to find a good source of human milk for their human baby. And I've got medical literature from the 1940s onward showing the difference in the bowel composition between breastfed babies and milk-fed baby, I should say animal milk or soy milk-fed babies, and also the immune supporting properties of human milk for human babies is enormous. And scientists that study this as of 2013 are still admitting that there's a huge powers of protection in breast milk and that they only understand a small part of it. So even today, scientists are still understanding more about the different components that are in breast milk and how it functions. Cancer doctors are now trying to take advantage of a certain chemical in breast milk because it kills cancer cells. So it's very powerful, not only immune supporter, but regulator of microbes. Mother's milk takes her bacteria from her intestine and brings it through her body and then puts it into the milk. They used to think that mother's milk was sterile or that it was contaminated when it had bacteria, but then they later determined that it has enormous amounts in just 1 ml, hundreds of thousands of bacteria in there. T cells, B cells, stem cells, and then this molecule that fights cancer, and hundreds of other molecules that they're just beginning to understand. So absolutely, there's a detriment to a baby that cannot get breastfed. Some breast milk is better than none at all, especially the first drink right away, the colostrum that comes through, and then the first few weeks. It's extremely important because early on is when the bowels are still, the cells in the intestines are still not connected completely, because the design is that to be able to bring in all this microRNA and genetic material and stem cells, so the bowel is open at that point. And then later on it matures. Breast milk helps the bowel mature, and then it closes the gaps later on. So just the same as early on, babies are more vulnerable to lots of things. That's why they're so much more dependent on milk, and they benefit so much more from it early on. But there's tons of immune globulins in the first few weeks of milk as well. So yeah, it's always, some is better than none, definitely.